All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to break down a huge concept in cost accounting, how companies deal with all those tricky, indirect factory costs. Things like rent, electricity, the supervisor's salary, and how they assign them fairly to the products they're making. Getting this right is an absolute game changer for your exams, so let's lock it in.
To get our heads around this, let's start with something you've probably all been through. Picture this. You and your friends order a big pizza. It's one pizza, one single bill, a shared cost.
So here's the million-dollar question. How do you split the bill? Do you just divide it by the number of people there? What if your friend absolutely housed 5 slices and you only had one? That simple, kind of awkward problem of splitting a shared cost, that is exactly the challenge companies face every single day with manufacturing overhead.
Right, they can't just take the factory's massive electric bill and split it evenly across every single product. A big, complex machine that takes days to build should definitely absorb more of that cost than a tiny part that takes 5 minutes. It's all about finding a fair and logical way to divide, or as we say in accounting, to allocate those shared costs.
So to solve this allocation puzzle, accountants don't just wing it. Nope, they have a really powerful and specific tool that's designed for this exact job. And trust me, it's the key to getting this right every time.
It's called the predetermined overhead rate, or POHR for short. The most important word in that whole phrase is predetermined. What that means is we figure this rate out before the year even starts. That way, we can price jobs and make smart decisions all year long instead of waiting until the very end.
Now, the formula to get it is pretty straightforward. But look closely. What's the one word you see twice? Estimated. To get our rate, we take our best guess, our forecast, of the total overhead costs, and we divide that by our best guess of the total activity, or what we call the allocation base. That base should be whatever really drives your overhead costs. So in a factory full of robots, machine hours makes a ton of sense. If it's more labor-intensive, maybe direct labor hours is the way to go.
And this is exactly why the POHR is so incredibly useful. Imagine a customer asks you for a price on a custom job in March. You can't just tell them, hey, I'll get back to you next January after I figure out my actual electricity bill for the whole year. No way. You need to quote them a price now. The POHR is what makes that possible.
Okay, so you did your homework, you ran the numbers, and you calculated your rate before the year began. Now for the fun part. It's time to actually put that rate to work on a real live job. This right here, this is the action formula. This is what you're going to be doing all year long for every single job. To figure out how much overhead costs to stick to a specific job, you just multiply your POHR by the amount of the allocation base that job actually used. Okay, listen up, because this slide is critical. This is the #1 spot where students get tripped up, so don't let it be you. To create the rate at the beginning of the year, you use estimated numbers for the whole company. But when you apply that rate to a specific job, you use the actual activity just for that job. Got it? Create with estimates, apply with actuals. Don't mix them up.
Let's make this real. Let's say we did all our calculations and our predetermined overhead rate, our POHR, came out to be a nice clean $6 for every single hour a machine is running in our factory. So check this out. During the month, we tracked job A. The records show it used 15,000 actual machine hours. So what do? We take our rate, $6 an hour, and multiply it by those 15,000 actual hours, and boom, we apply $90,000 of manufacturing overhead costs to job A. Simple as that.
All right, so we have all these numbers flying around. We have the actual costs we're paying, and we have these applied costs we're assigning to jobs. Where does this all go in the accounting system? Well, accountants have a special account just to keep it all straight.
This account is called, you guessed it, manufacturing overhead. Now for your exams, the best way to think about it is like a temporary holding bucket. Its only job is to collect all the actual overhead costs in one place and then clear them out by applying them to jobs. That's why you'll often hear it called a clearing account.
And visually, the absolute best way to see this flow is with a classic T account. Seriously, this simple little diagram is going to be your best friend for understanding how all these costs move around.
So here's the deal. It's super simple. The left side, the debit side, that's where all your actual overhead costs get dumped as they happen. The real electricity bill, the real factory rent payment, they all go in on the left. The right side, the credit side, that represents the overhead being applied and moved out of this bucket and over to the jobs in work in process. And here you can see how that one T account fits into the whole grand scheme of things. You've got your raw materials, your direct labor, and now our applied manufacturing overhead. They all come together in the work in process account.
That's how we get a product's total cost.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. To make sure all this information actually sticks in your brain for your exams and, for the next few years, let's lock in the absolute must-knows. This is your high-yield summary.
I'm serious. Pause and screenshot this slide if you have to. Number 1, we apply overhead using a predetermined rate, the POHR. 2, we calculate that rate before the year starts using estimates. 3, we apply the rate using the actual activity for a specific job. 4, the manufacturing overhead account is a clearing account. Actual costs debit in, applied costs credit out. And finally, number 5, if you ever get stuck, just think about the pizza. It's all about finding a fair rate to split a shared cost.
And all this leads us to a really fascinating final question. This whole system is based on an estimate we made months ago. So what happens at the end of the year when our actual costs don't perfectly match what we applied to jobs? Because let's be real, they won't. That gets us into over and under applied overhead. And that is exactly what we are going to break down next time. Thanks for watching.